Oh, great. Just what the snakes need in order to tip the scales. Here's your look at the Mattel Master Universe Origins. Snake Trooper, slithering cyborg of the Snake Men. Augmented with Horde science, the Snake Troopers change from simple minions to self-repairing cyborgs. I've seen enough movies to know you don't mix science with snakes. Before we get a closer look at the Snake Trooper, let's first grab the tape measure and see how tall the figure stands. Snake Trooper in this case, and using a lot of the molds we've gotten from earlier figures, I'll bring those in a second, but Snake Trooper is 6 inches in height, or the figure is going to be 15 centimeters tall. Yeah, speaking of other figures, Snake Trooper really is nothing more than just a Horde Trooper body with the head sculpt used from Rattler. And of course it has to be. Rattler is always the hardest figure to bring in and get him to stand, just the way they've actually designed the tail. One of the downsides, the outcomes of actually using then these two figures and mushing them together to make a Snake Trooper, is with the head sculpt that they used for Rattler and the collar piece that of course carries over from the Horde Trooper, it makes things very difficult for the Snake Trooper to look forward. Other figures we can also bring in for comparison, some of the other Snake Troopers, Snake Soldiers. Here's what he looks like with Snake Face. Here's also what it looks like with Cobra Khan. And here's what the figure also looks like with Tongue Lashor. Wow, that's a lot of Snake Man figures. To come include with the Snake Trooper, first of all, the wasted piece of paper I was bringing in and talk about is the fact that the figure can have swapped out parts. In this case, you can actually remove the arms, you can remove the lower body, you can remove the boots, and of course you can remove the head sculpt. Not really sure necessarily what you're going to be doing with it, but I guess if you wanted to maybe use the green skin face of Rattler used for another figure, you can also do that as well. You could probably even pretend like, I don't know, pop it on the head, for example, of Man-at-Arms. You could do it that way. Of course, then you're going to have all these extra carcasses of bodies with really no heads to speak of. The figure also comes included with a comic book, Sigh. Not the fact necessarily that we get the comic that's entitled Serpent Siege, but the way that it was actually glued to the inside packaging, you probably already saw at the opener of this review, that as I tried to take the comic out, it ripped the side of it. No harm, no foul. It's always nice to have a backup, mind you, but I already have a backup technically with the one that we got included with King Randor, and this one's actually still quite pristine. It's always a bit of a bummer, though, when I end up ripping these comic books. Still, though, to flip through quickly the pages, you can see that several examples of the serpent soldiers. The Snake Men, in this case, can actually look forward. The same can't, unfortunately, be said for the figure itself. And then on the back, advertised are Snake Tila, Snake Trooper, Slamurai, and you already looked at King Randor. Going to move that to the side. Speaking of other things that get carried over, Horde body isn't the only thing that finds its same travels along with the Snake Trooper, as it seems to be the case that it also comes included with the same staff. Now, I would have said that this would have been a fine prime time to actually give us something different in the way of mold, but considering that these are technically augmented troopers of the Horde, it would make some sense, obviously, that they're going to be using the exact same accessories as well. So in this case, you get yourself a Horde staff, not necessarily a Snake staff. Speaking, though, of snakes, though, at least it gets its own snake shield, and it looks to be molded in pretty close of a color, kind of this taffy red. It does have a little clip there also on the back. The clip is always one of these things that are attached separately. I guess they don't want to actually mold this as one piece. They always have to then assemble, usually, the clips onto the backs of the shields. The shield itself does look good. I don't know how much protecting it's really going to be doing, considering it's only just a triangle. It kind of actually looks like a guitar pick. Imagine using this as a guitar pick. But this does clip onto, technically, either one of the arms, really. You just simply clip this onto the existing wrists. There we go. And because, of course, it does have a turning feature, one thing that does benefit, at least, which I guess one of the reasons probably why they have an attaching clip like this, is so you can actually rotate the shield back and forth. They probably could have just molded it like this, granted, but if you wanted to have it, say, for example, sideways, I suppose it probably could use it then as sort of a weapon attack for close melee attacks. Like I said, we can go ahead and take then the staff. The staff simply just fits into the other hand of the Snake Trooper, and then he's ready for battle. Again, though, the only problem is he's only going to really be looking up to the sky to know exactly who he's supposed to be attacking. Or he has to kind of look down first, and then essentially charge his opponents. Let's go ahead and remove those accessories right now. Now, because, of course, this is also using the same Horde Trooper body, it does have still the functioning gimmick on the inside of the body. So we'll just put the figure down here for 1 second. Bring in the Horde Trooper, which I actually did pick up a couple of other Horde Troopers. I still have them sealed, but I'll likely be opening them up shortly. But there was a little button here on the front. You essentially just press the button, and it usually would operate, essentially taking the two halves of the shell and sandwiching them over and like filleting them open. There goes the Snake Trooper. Unfortunately, these never really work all that well. Just by pressing it alone never seems to be enough to actually remove the front half from the back half, and a lot of times you usually have to tap it in order to release the function like this. The Snake Trooper works the same way, and unfortunately works the same way where you can't simply just press it. It has to be sort of pushed or snapped. So you just essentially tap it with your finger. Do it enough, hopefully, to the point where you're not actually drawing blood to the end of your tips. But you can see it does work the exact same way. The bodies underneath are also identical. I can't imagine that they would have done any new tooling, as it looks certainly to be the case that they're using one body from one to the other. The only thing that I did really like, though, about the Horde Trooper was the fact that the inside was sort of this red coloring that they've used. The Snake Trooper, unfortunately, doesn't have anything else really on the inside of it. I really wish that they could have maybe used some of the green maybe for the head. Now, I understand that it is a cyborg, but I don't know how much of the snake actually gets carried over. One, as a side note, though, one thing you can also do as well is that you can move the head down. The thing about it, though, is that when you're pushing it together, it never seems like it properly closes in place. The moment I do push it back in place, it usually then sits the head back further up. But you can kind of cheat a little bit, just tapping the front again. Just bring the head down just a little bit, and then bring the collar pieces together. And providing you don't push too hard against it, you can kind of have the Snake Trooper looking a little further forward than when we did at the beginning of the review. Again, I do kind of wish, though, that there was a little bit of color on the inside of it, because it's a lot of black plastic. I mean, other than really just the face alone and a little bit of gold that they've afforded to the bands there that he has on his shoulders. Of course, the nice red logo there of the Horde and some nice gold down below. He's really an all-black plastic figure. So again, like just a little bit of extra color could have gone a long way on the inside cavity of his shells. Again, we're just going to sandwich these back two together. And then again, you're just going to press the button. I'm not going to do it because, I mean, how many times have I already done this? But the figure overall looks pretty good. It's got some nice red down below also for carried over Horde logo. So he's got that down in the boots. He's also got that in the chest. But just to bring back in the Horde Trooper, it was exactly the same. The only thing that was different, though, is the fact that the boots are very different. I mean, this one actually does have wider, sort of more robotic boots. Whereas actually this one, it's not completely it's not completely a reused body. The arms seem to be the same. The torso clearly seems to be the same, as well as the lower half of his body, until you get down to the boots. And then you realize right away that they've used completely different boots. My guess is that they probably have used the boots maybe from a Hordak figure from before, and that now is simply just attached onto the bottom of the figure's legs. The articulation here on the figure. So again, like, you still have the ball joint, but it just doesn't work as well as it could. Part of me would have liked if they could have actually made the post a little bit longer. Now, I know normally when it comes to these Motu bodies, all the bodies are going to be exactly the same. But with the exception being of the rule here of the Horde Trooper, I think there probably could have been an opportunity that they could have made a longer post on the end of his neck. Just made a post here where you could actually have had the head sitting further up. And therefore, you'd be able to bring the head a little bit lower down. Sculpting of the face again on the Snake Trooper looks pretty good. And again, just to bring back in Rattler so you can see that they are going to be exactly the same. Rattler simply was red. Snake Troopers now simply is just green. The paint, though, handled nicely, though, on the eyes. You've got some nice additional white teeth that he has on the front there of his mouth. And they've even taken the time to sculpt a tongue on the inside. There's no articulation at all to the mouth. I mean, it's simply just all one piece. But again, with the bulge right there, you can move the head around. You just can't move it around as much when you got the collar together like this. Shoulders do hinge out, still the same as all the other Motu bodies. You can bring the arms and move them forward. You can move them back. There is a swivel where the elbow also has a hinge, which also does hinge, of course. There's the hands that rotate all the way around. The waist does swivel. And in case you are curious, you can still detach these. And if you want to mix and match the parts and move them around, you can do that. It doesn't impede at all the actual gimmick, because, of course, the gimmick works on a hinge joint that's worked underneath here. And simply just attach the two back together. The legs do split out. Once again, using a ball joint on the inside there, you can take the legs and move them forward. You can move them back. Single hinge on the knee. But one thing that was noted on this one, at least the one thing I noticed, is the fact it does seem to have more of a sound of a ratchet joint. I think it's just the fact it's rubbing against the plastic of the kneecap here that sort of gives you a makeshift sound of a ratcheted joint, even though that's not really the case. There's articulation also here as well, where the boot attaches independently. You can also hinge the boot back and forth this way, and you can also rock back and forth the feet there as well. All in all, it's not a bad figure. I mean, it's one of those cases where I'm probably going to be army building this guy, maybe getting at least one more. I can't see myself going to the degree that I was starting to go with when it came to the Horde Trooper. At the time of shooting this review, I've got this guy loose, and I think I got 3 more Horde Troopers, all still sealed on card. I will be more, I guess, dedicating my time and my budget and my resources to probably picking up a couple more Horde Troopers, because I like the idea. I like the look of the Horde Troopers. I don't know if I have as much the passion when it comes to the Snake Trooper. Snake Trooper looks okay. I mean, obviously they're using a lot of the same mold, except for the boots. The boots are different. But again, like a lot of the black plastic, I mean, it's one of those cases where I'm probably going to be getting, again, just one more. Okay, I'm going to bring in just Snake Face for an example here. Probably just get like one more so I can have, at least on my shelf, all the Snake Men in the front and one Snake Trooper here on one side and maybe one on the other. And I think that's enough for me. I don't think I need to go crazy, not to the level at least I've been doing so far with the Horde Trooper. I feel like me and my wallet will be on better speaking terms when it finds out that I'm not going to be going as crazy picking up Snake Troopers as was the case when I was picking up all the Horde Troopers. Horde Troopers, I was more invested in, and still to look at the two, and even though they are using the same mold, I think it handles better and it looks nicer with the Horde Trooper. That this one sort of does just feel like a copycat mold, which essentially it is all. I mean, they have used black plastic, unlike the silver plastic for the Horde Trooper, and with the additional pops of color that they've added, the bands of the gold that are on the sides of the arms and on the front of the belt buckle, not to mention the carried over Horde symbols, does bring in some necessary color, because if not for that, it is a very absent looking figure when it comes to some of the details. The details are still sculpted in there, but I think by just molding it all in black plastic, it sort of just feels like it's a bit unfinished for me. I was also looking around at the other Snake Men that I've already had a look at in part of my collection, and I was trying to think, is there a better head sculpt that they could have maybe used for the Snake Trooper? Well, I think the benefit of using Rattler, for example, it sort of gives you just a generic Snake Men look. I was thinking for a second Cobra Khan, but Cobra Khan also has a little hole on the front of his mouth. I don't think it would have translated as well. And with Tongue Lasher for me still doesn't look as much like a snake. It looks sort of more like, I don't know, like a gecko. So I guess really Rattler is the best head sculpt that they could have used. It's just unfortunate, though, by carrying over the same mold of what was already included with the Horde Trooper, the higher collar, combined again with still the shorter post for the ball joint, means that this Snake Trooper never can really quite look forward. He always has to be looking upward. So providing everybody is attacking him from above, the Snake Man should be okay. If someone's running right straight at him, he's probably not going to realize that anybody's attacking him until it's too late. What do you guys think of the Snake Trooper? Let me know down below in the comment section. And if you have picked up this figure, how many have you picked up, but how many are you also planning to pick up? Are you going to go as crazy as maybe the Horde Trooper, or are you going to maybe tone it down a little bit so that you and your wallet are still on speaking terms? Again, if you guys are interested and would like to get this one for yourself, it should be already now starting to show up in various online sites. I just ended up picking this one up over on Amazon. I thought I got it for a pretty good price. Not the price where I would definitely go back and probably pick up multiples of these. I think another one is fine and good for my collection. If you guys enjoyed this video, want to hit with the like. If you guys are loving, the content you guys are seeing, you certainly do want to stick around for more Motu reviews. If you haven't already done so, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below, and that you're also turning on the bell notification. As again already mentioned, we will be looking at some more Master Universe stuff between this, the Origins, and some of the stuff that we're looking at from the Masterverse. There's a bunch of cool content all coming your way. As always, guys, thanks for watching. See you guys next time.